So it was 2 weeks till the 2020 election. 1 year ago today, it's a one-year anniversary of my town hall interview with President Donald Trump in the Rose Garden. I got a full hour with the former president. He and I covered a lot of topics in that 1 hour special, everything from COVID to China to education. Trump told me what he was going to do for us in 2021 and going forward. But he also warned what we could expect from a President Biden if that happened. Donald Trump was always tough on China from day one. Remember when he called Taiwan to show China who runs things in the East? We all knew Trump didn't hold back against China. But here's what he said about how Biden would handle that communist dictatorship. Listen.
Biden can handle it any way he wants. Biden's bought off by China. Biden took out $1.5 billion for his son to manage and make millions of dollars a year. Biden is weak on China. Biden's been weak on China from day one. Biden let China get away with murder. Biden let China steal us and rob us blind.
Oh, boy, was he right about that. Biden is letting China walk all over us. China already has a chummy relationship with that Trader General Mark Milley. Remember the guy who called China to tell him he wouldn't let Donald Trump go to war? One of the few holdovers from the Trump administration, by the way, into the Biden administration. Why? Because Milley is the perfect guy to work alongside Biden to let China walk all over the United States. Here's Milley's explanation for why he should get away with this call to China.
With respect to the Chinese calls, I routinely communicated with my counterpart, General Lee, with the knowledge and coordination of civilian oversight.
Yeah, he routinely calls China, but guess what? Trump was never going to start a war with China anyway. Milley just wanted control. He got a taste of calling the shots, and he wanted to take advantage of a sleepy Joe Biden and give China what they wanted. Speaking of China, what did Donald Trump have to say about, this is important, Hunter Biden?
They've done is corrupt, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. When you look at the laptop, we call it the laptop from hell, and when you look at what they've done and as a family where the son follows the father into these countries and they walk away with tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's ridiculous. And then the press doesn't want to cover it.
Yeah.
And big tech doesn't want to cover it.
Yeah, he's right. The media didn't just cover it. They not only wanted to cover it, they downplayed the whole thing. Take a listen to this.
It appeared in a tabloid that President Trump and his allies are really trying to seize on here, alleging that Joe Biden may have had a meeting that was set up with somebody that Hunter Biden worked with on this Ukrainian company. Now, the story is so dubious, and we should note, by the way, that the Biden campaign says that meeting was never on Biden's official schedule. But Facebook and Twitter made moves to try to limit the spread of this story. And the Washington Post is reporting that some intelligence experts think this has the hallmark of like a disinformation campaign.
The story's dubious. Disinformation campaign telling us the story isn't real. Well, if the story wasn't real, why did Twitter spend so much time threatening to take the New York Post off Twitter for reporting it? And we now know that Joe and Hunter Biden shared a bank account. Now, they never told us about that. Trump warned us about that. Politicians almost succeeded in suppressing the story. But we all know the truth always comes out, and that laptop was loaded with truths they didn't want us to see. He was right. But moving on, Donald Trump was always tough on the border, too. He made sure migrants came in legally, not like Biden, who lets illegals treat the United States like an all-you-can-eat welfare buffet.
You know, the wall is being built, and we're doing 10 miles a week. We'll be up to ultimately 520-something miles, 529 miles. It'll be completed very soon. It's had a huge impact on the southern border. The numbers are unbelievable, the numbers of drugs and all of the things that were pouring through into our country.
That wall was working, folks. Border agents tell us. Trump was right. As usual, Biden ruined the border. We're still waiting to see September's numbers for border encounters, but we expect that number to be over 300,000 migrants. Plus, over 12,000 Haitians were allowed into the United States after flooding our borders in Del Rio, Texas. We can't track them, and now hundreds of thousands of more migrants are steadily making their way to the border, hoping to get in too. And by the way, they're heading to a town near you in the dead of the night. More on that important story later. But how did the Biden administration respond? Well, they didn't, at least not until they could play the race card.
He also felt they were horrific and horrible. I don't know anyone who could watch that video and not have that emotion. Last night, our Secretary of Homeland Security put out a statement conveying there'd be an investigation, that he's going to send additional personnel. And I think it's important for people to know this is not who we are. That's not who the Biden-Harris administration is. And we're going to absolutely pursue that investigation and get to the bottom of what happened here.
Yeah, did you do that, Jen? Did you do that, Biden? Did you pursue that investigation to find out that those border agents were simply holding the reins of their horses and they weren't whipping migrants, which we now know is completely false? Luckily, the Supreme Court is forcing Joe Biden to reinstate some of Trump-era border policies, and hopefully it'll get a little bit better. But I wouldn't hold my breath, because it may not, because it's still, at the end of the day, it's still Joe Biden. By the way, where's Kamala? On to taxes. Here's what Trump said about taxes.
We're going to cut taxes. Again, he's going to raise taxes, quadruple regulations that I've been able to cut that were meaningless, but they made it impossible to do business.
Yeah, and now the Democrats wanted to spend another $3.5 trillion more on the next spending bill. That's real money, folks. Real money. And the only way they can do that is by raising taxes. But here's how they say they're going to make it cost nothing. Listen.
But I will also note, and we've done this a little bit over the past couple of days, but that this package, the reconciliation package, would cost $0.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously it'll cost zero because the bill will never get passed, and they're not willing to negotiate, are they?
Because when a bill passes that is underfunded, that only gives a crumb, you get that crumb. Yep. Because when you only give some and not all, then some people get nothing.
Yeah. Did you hear that?
Some people get nothing.
Crumbs, $3.5 trillion. And AOC calls that crumbs. But guess what? They're all lockstep. This whole crumbs idea, right?
The compromise was the $3.5 trillion. It is unconscionable that he can stand puffed up and to say that I'll toss you some crumbs right now and then hopefully you can say you ate.
$1 trillion, $2 trillion, $3 trillion, $3.5 trillion crumbs. Look, it's simple math, folks. The more liberals want to spend, the more they'll have to raise your taxes. And guess what, AOC? Cori Bush, it's called negotiation. If you won't settle for your $1 trillion crumbs, you're not going to get anything at all.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.